Hello, Dr. Music, how are you? Good? I'm ready to take a nap. Okay, Karen, I trust you.
Sorry, Mark.
Every parent said, don't touch the horse.
I don't have anything from it. You wanna text
So
me?
that means that you're doing stuff that you
Sorry,
ignore.
Flash
just-
light. It used to be a thing, you know?
Wasting
It's
your
okay.
time.
Oh, I had added probably have a baby. Don't touch the morning. I don't even
Where you
know.
were?
Don't touch the. She did not say that.
Sorry.
And of course, most of mine are elementary.
We're good, Marie.
All right, so we'll call this to order at 6. Hey, there she is. I'm glad you could make it. All right, so if you would please stage and start with the roll call for us?
Bruce Belargin.
Here.
Katie Thermos.
Here.
Marie Colbeth.
Here.
Bob Gunther. Patty Jo Forsberg.
Here.
Catherine Cranston.
Here.
Lori Belargin.
Here.
Thank you very much. Bob is on vacation actually in a spot where not good, kind of like I was last time. Thank you all for making it tonight on the second attempt or 4th meeting of the month. So I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda, or do we want to make any changes? Approve the agenda as presented is,
I'll make that motion.
thank you, Bruce.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'll
I'm
move
sorry,
to
that was you,
amend.
Lori? Okay. All right, what would you like to?
I would like to flip the 4 with 5 and do the construction calendar discussion first, please.
All right, and do I have a second for that amendment? Second it. Thank you, Patty Jo. Patty Jo seconding. All those in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Moving
Aye.
4 and 5, or flipping 4 and 5. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Ready? Okay, you would like to keep McGrath first?
Yeah, but, I mean,
Okay, so we've got, 5-1, amendment passes. So that amendment goes, so there was a motion on the floor, I'm not sure how this plays out. If
So now we
Bruce,
approve the amended.
but Bruce may not want to have that.
it's fine, we're good.
All right, so all those in favor of the agenda with 4 and 5 flipped, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion passes. So we will move right into 5. And we recognize that there will be some this evening that may want to make a comment. We're going to keep it short, sweet, concise. You can each, I'm assuming there might be some of you in the audience. And if there are, I'd like you to fill out one of those red cards, please. Grab it quick.
For public comments.
For anybody that wants to speak on the calendar event.
Yep.
All right, so not an easy discussion this evening, it may not be, but it, we want to hear the voices that have some concerns and questions about it. We're going to talk about the 2019-2020 construction calendar discussion. As we know, the more time we can give the construction company, it can significantly increase their efficiencies as well as save us a pretty significant amount of dollars. But I do want us to hear some voices because I did receive comments that people did want to say something. So when you get up, if you don't mind dropping the red card here on the corner of the table, and then whoever wants to start, please share with us your thoughts and introduce who you are. And if all you put on the card is your name and the calendar, we're good. Do we have a courageous person?
I have a question.
Sure.
Before we get started, my name's Jeff Barty. I have
Hi,
a couple
Jeff.
daughters here in high school. And I've heard a number of proposals, kind of word of mouth, about what changes to a calendar might look like. But I haven't seen anything written, I haven't seen anything formal. Is there a proposal, or are there several proposals that we could understand?
My understanding last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were gonna look for as many ways as we could and do a combination of as many as we could. So it could be, I know when we talked last night, you wanted to be sure we had considered all of them. The hope was that we could consider as many as we could make work.
Okay.
So, yes, many have been considered. Do you have anything to add to that?
We have the four options that, as far as adding time, to this year. Again, the goal was, try and save some money and also try and disrupt the district as little as possible. And, we have a long litany of things that we know we'd have to deal with, as far as, summer school and daycare and contracts and, we've been looking for as much input that way. A couple of outings that I've had with some of the groups, open house and things like that, just invited input, let us know what you think. Again, the three options were 15, 20, and 30 minutes of school day. The last one was do nothing, which is still a viable option, and work around, or, start in June and, work into next year and adjust next year's calendar. The only problem with that is, if you start taking time off in the fall, it's hard to get contractors, because everyone's buttoning up their buildings or buttoning up their projects. It's more advantageous to us to get the thing rolling earlier than later. So, again, as far as I'm concerned, any of the options we'll work with. It's just that I think if we didn't present this option of ending school early, we'd be remiss in our duty as far as presenting all the options, so, we can possibly save some money on this thing too.
All right,
So-
so, for those of you who just came in, if you wanted to make a comment tonight, if you could grab one of those red cards there. We switched 4 and 5 on the agenda, so it is actually the discussion on the calendar right now. So, Jeff, you wanna, great,
up here.
perfect.
Thank you.
What,
My feedback is it's kind of hard to comment on the proposed changes if I don't know exactly. I heard 15, 30 and, or
15, 20, and 30.
minutes added. I've heard spring break possibly canceled. I've heard other.
Yeah, in every scenario, spring breaks
They're all
up.
kind of rumors, word of mouth, so it's hard to provide public comment on a proposal that I'm not sure exactly what it is. I guess my feedback, a couple of comments on the proposed changes to the calendar in spring break is, it seems awful late in, we're starting school either today or tomorrow, to be talking about calendar changes. I get that there's a significant amount of money on hand, or at hand. I've heard $500,000, is that?
When you project out possibly 3% of what's not completed in the first year, it has to carry over to the second year.
Okay.
I mean, nothing gets cheaper, we know
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So again, I'm going off of what I've heard, so I don't really know if it's $500,000 or $500,000 is 1.7% of the amount approved. And a couple of comments, the funds were approved 5 months ago, and roughly it'll be 5 months next Tuesday in the referendum. And we're sitting here today with a new school calendar starting, which was approved earlier in the year, and now we're talking about making pretty dramatic changes to that as my students start school tomorrow. So feedback is it seems a little bit late in the game. I get it that there's a fair amount of money involved, but at the same time, it seems a little bit late. So that's kind of comment number one. Question number two would be, if we're adding 15, 20, 30 minutes, what would that look like? I assume we've already processed schedules, so we wouldn't be adding instruction time? What would we be adding with that extra time?
Well, it would be instruction time, that's how we have to count our hours.
So it would be adding to math and those types of classes? Okay. Just, again,
Yeah,
it was
no,
more a
good
question. I
question.
wasn't sure what we were gonna do with that.
Very
And
similar to
schedules
what we
were
did
locked
last
out.
year, that we had to add 15 minutes because of all the snow days.
Sure. Okay. And then just, general comment, 15, 20, 30 minutes, doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start thinking about, my kids do 0 hour, they have dynamics, they have student council, they have, jazz band. These start at 7:15 in the morning, 7:40. And so you tack that on a longer school day and then evening activities, whether it's sports or robotics or whatever. Gets to be a long day. They still have to do homework. And at the end, it's still nice to have a few minutes with your kids, and everything just gets compressed. I get it seems like a little bit, but honestly, I probably get about 15 minutes with my kids every day during the school year, so that's a fairly big impact. So that's kind of comment number two. The other thing that I would suggest is that, you know, we asked the kids last year, we brought in a new schedule to the high school. And I remember my kids bringing home their schedule, and it was full of conflicts. I think they had 4 to 8 conflicts during the week. My younger daughter actually had one scheduled lunch for the week. And there are a couple of options there. I had the mod schedule when I went to high school, this was a long time ago. But I get the flexibility, I get the benefits of it. I never had the conflicts to deal with that our kids have today. And there were a couple ways to look at that last year. We could have said, hey, drop a few classes, get rid of the conflicts. We could have extended the day, kind of like we're proposing here, get rid of spring break, something like that to get rid of the conflicts. Or the last one is just get creative. And that's kind of what we asked all of the students to do last fall. And quite frankly, it worked pretty well. My kids worked with the faculty, they worked with counselors, they figured out how to make it work. My daughter packed 4 lunches a week, ate it during class rather than during a designated spot, and it worked. And so we challenged the kids last year to get creative with something that looked kind of impossible. Their schedules looked really challenging. And I guess that would be my challenge back to the construction project. The easy thing to do is to shorten or lengthen the summer by making the kids stay here longer, taking out spring break, things like that. I'm not sure that that's the right thing for the kids. And so my challenge is, we threw a lot on our kids last year, challenge them to get creative. I guess that's my challenge back, is can we do what we're doing? I get saving the money, we should save the money. Let's see if we can get creative, just like we asked our kids to do last fall, and get it done on the same timeline.
Thanks,
So,
Jeff.
those are my comments, feedback.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for taking the time to come in this evening. Have we got a couple others, I think, that if they would like to, you can say I reiterate what he said, whatever you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with, sure.
Well, I think he's right with the compression of time. I have a daughter who's also in dynamics,
Could you spell your
musical.
name?
What's
Your
that?
name?
Ian McDonald. We have the same kind of scheduling issues, and they are very busy and have very little time at home to do homework. The good thing is with the FlexMod system, they have open times, and that's when she gets her work done. She's nothing like I was in high school, so she comes home with not as much homework. I guess my concern would be more towards the construction aspect of it, because it's what I deal with every day. And I'm wondering where the 19 days they're trying to get out of all of this is equating to $1 million next year. It just doesn't add up. And the $1 million is just something I saw in a post about it. There's a lot of options, and there's overtime. If you're figuring 20 guys on a project, would probably be something similar to this. $95 an hour. If you do the 13 Saturdays during the summer, you've made up 13 days, and it costs somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000.
Thanks for some more thoughts to consider. Would you like to add anything else?
All right, that's it.
Thank you, Ian.
Yep, thanks.
And if you could
Shannon,
drop your cards up here, that'd be great.
Shannon Marie Bro, I have a first grader and a senior. My concern is more on the first grader than the senior. He's 6 years old, gonna be 7. Adding 30 minutes to his day, or even 15, that's an extremely long day for our children at that age. Any of those elementary school kids, not to say that it isn't gonna affect the high schoolers too, but when you add that long day, some of these kids get up. I know on the weeks that he's with his dad, he's up at 5:30 and goes to daycare to get on a bus for an hour, to come to school, and then he's gonna add in the time. That's extremely long. So the option that I seen come out last night about waiting till the following summer sounds like a great idea. I just think adding even 15 minutes to these young kids, what's in place? Have we thought about that? What's in place when these kids have behavioral issues because the exhaustion has set in the afternoon? Is there enough manpower to help them when they're having issues at the school because they're tired and now teachers want them to sit longer in that chair? Adding extra instructional time at the end of the day. They're losing 19 days and we're trying to cram it in and make it extremely long. So I really think that is gonna be hard for a lot of children to sit 20 or 30 minutes, and how about the sports kids that are gonna totally miss it, cause the schedule's already in? They're gonna have to miss, so they can get on the bus to get to their game. So I liked the option of the proposal of waiting till the following summer, because well, he started today, my senior, but tomorrow, and then Tuesday starts the rest.
Thank you, Shauna. Have we got any others? I appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, go ahead.
Christie Freer. Our comments are just about, what's the plan for that additional half hour? Is it just, free time, and I know he touched on it, free time, how do you calculate to make sure they're getting their curriculum in? So it's not, hey, we're just checking the box so that we get the funding from the state, so that they're actually getting a full year's education and not getting cut short. You know what's that? That's all I got.
Thanks for taking the time. We'll take your card too, though.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Donny Hearn. I live in, off of Plurd Drive. I have 2 kids in middle school, and I got just a couple quick things here. I supported the referendum. I think
Thank
the
you.
school district needed and was well thought out and was well presented what we needed, and I felt that when it was approved, that all these decisions were already we figured out. Now we're coming back saying it's gonna cost more if we prolong this. Well, I thought this was all, that the school board did a really good job of saying, here's our costs, here's what we need, here's the infrastructure that we need, and that was why I voted for it. Now we have, we're coming back to the individuals and saying, here's the school calendar, but let's make some changes to it. I'm not opposed to changes. I'm saying, step back for a minute, think about it, because has this been discussed with the staff? I mean, we got a lot of school teachers here that are gonna be asked to step on board a little bit longer. Has this been discussed with how the sports are gonna be affected, and people that are going out into sports? Like, I've heard some discussions about this, and this haste, 15 minutes or other, but more importantly too, I think is individuals are taking spring break. And my child has been perfect attendance for going on 3 years, and intends to maintain perfect attendance. And if spring break is taken away from from him being able to go out, and he will, miss spring break. And that's something that I think would harm him more than it would benefit him, about the added cost of construction. So, the school board needs to take into fact, if you got high dollar items, and I'm also in construction too, we're talking 15 to 19 days. I get it. Every day is precious, but again, Ian made a good point about overtime. I think the other thing is, you got high dollar, high cost items. You guys have looked at those kind of things. You guys have pondered these and made the decisions that this is the amount of money that we needed. I have no problem putting that money out there, but I do have a problem coming back to the well after it's already been thought and it's already been put forward. So if there's issues that need to be worked out, let's try to work them out under what the district and what the referendum already approved. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, it's not that we're asking for more dollars, but if we have dollars that are used more efficiently, it allows us to create or take care of more needs. So I want to be careful on that.
Can you just
Sure.
shoot a few comments out, because, the project was originally, looked at as a 2-year project, 2-summer project. And it wasn't until we got down to the last 2 construction management firms that were in competition here that they started talking about, did you think about 1 year, one construction season? Because we could save you some money if we bid it all at one time and go for it. So there's no additional money. It's just that by not stretching out over 2 years and having them bid out, with the inflationary factor for a second year, they project that we can save money by doing it in 1 year. That's when the conversation started, as far as, okay, what do you think about adding some time on the calendar, getting out early. The earlier we can turn the buildings over, the more they can get done. And again, it's about, trying to get the kids out of the construction zone and trying to get a bigger bang for our buck. But there was nothing ever about more money, what have you. It's actually, it was a cost savings.
Let me correct that. The word is additional cost,
Yeah.
right? And that's what being put
Yeah,
out here, is there's an additional cost. The cost
There was no additional cost.
Okay, so we're talking about, right now, the district approved a 2-year construction budget plan, right?
That was the plan that was from the architect said, this is what we can do, it'll be a 2-year deal.
Okay.
When the construction management firms got in, and that's who really controls the schedule,
Mhm.
they're the ones that suggested, hey, did you think of this? And
But the
no,
cost,
we
the
didn't.
cost that was projected to the constituents that voted, that was over a 2-year period at a
Correct.
cost of X amount of dollars, right?
Correct, yeah.
So, okay, so realistically, if we did nothing, we're within our budget.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there's no question
Thank
there at all. It's just, here's an opportunity to save some money
Sure.
and maybe take care of a few other issues and what have you. So
I get
that's the only reason here.
Okay,
And all these proposals we have, I'm happy with whatever.
yeah, okay.
It's just if I didn't suggest some of these things after the fact, then I get shot.
No, I appreciate it being
You know,
clarified
so,
that way.
Yeah, no, that's
Is that
fine.
because
There's a lot of
originally
this-
it was brought out as,
Yeah.
well, this is gonna cost more, which is why I'm here, is because I thought we
Yeah.
already
No.
kinda ate on this already, so.
No.
If we did nothing tomorrow, just so I understand, if we did nothing, and the board said, we're not gonna act on this, we're gonna be within our means. If we did this, we would be able to do a little bit more because of the cost savings. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. And assuming the bids come in good. Right now, all the numbers look really good, from everybody, but again, when you bid it out,
I
see what the
understand.
climate is, so.
Is there anyone else that wanted to make some comments on the calendar?
I wanted to say something else after he said that. So if I correct, for 2 years, it would be the same. When you said you're gonna get less time with your kids, I said they're gonna be exhausted. Can you imagine that little time now as parents get and they're exhausted? That's not quality family time. So yes, we might have some money at the end, but we're jeopardizing family time and quality time and these kids'
Well, the teachers
mental
too.
well-being
Or teachers.
and their education, so.
I'll throw one last comment in. Can I?
She did, I'm going to allow you to as
Okay.
well.
I asked my daughters last night, would it be okay if I came here? Usually, the
Smart
answer is
dad.
absolutely not. Don't embarrass me, don't do anything. None of them even blinked about it. They said yes. I mean, if we talk to the kids and we talk to those that are gonna be impacted the most, if we really, because I didn't hear about this until it was kind of word of mouth in the hall. And so have we really studied this? I get the financials, I get the X's and Y's and all that stuff, but have we really understood the impact?
There's always, and thank you all for coming and sharing your opinions, we do value them. There's always gonna be trade-offs, whether we wait till next year, whether we do it in 2 years, something's going to have to give. So I appreciate your sharing your thoughts, and I hope that you'll have an understanding that we'll come to the best decision. What you think, 500,000, 250,000, those are still big dollars in a school district. And, with a 19 million budget or even a 28 referendum, you have to think about those things. So somebody's gonna be inconvenienced either way. So I
But
hope
the board
we're-
hasn't even discussed it yet.
Right, right. So, thank you all for your comments. We're gonna, and I would like us to be efficient with our time this evening and not keep going back and forth. So if we could, please keep our comments to 2 each. That way gives you an opportunity to share your thing, and then if you want to respond to someone's, I would appreciate that. So if anyone wants to start with some questions for Dr. Bezick?
What's the feeling at the schools for?
I've got a pretty good handle on the high school and middle school, because they're the ones mostly affected by it. I met with the entire staff at the middle school, and unanimously, 20 or 30 minutes, they want to get this done, and they don't wanna teach with the construction, the hammering and what have you. Margaret Johnson's known for working in occupied spaces. I mean, if we decide to do nothing, we'd get them in there in April and May regardless, but we'd be shuffling, people around emptying out different parts of the building. So they'd be working around the kids. But as far as the middle school, they were pretty solid on, 20 or 30 minutes, let's get it done. We'll wreck one spring or summer, and then we'll have it. The high school, they offered some other suggestions on some other days and what have you, but they want it done also. I don't have a good handle on the elementary. And again, they're the least affected, but they will be affected by the time, as far as construction.
I got a lot of comments from elementary staff, and they weren't, most of it was the 15 to 20 minute would be fine, but they were not up on the 30 at all for elementary. And they don't want anything with the start times. Elementary start times don't extend those. Leave the start times, the 15 to 20 they could live with, but not the 30.
Well, and they have
That's too
experience with
much.
that last year.
Kids and teachers can't do that.
Anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, I don't know what he wants to say, but I agree with adding 20 minutes, but keeping a spring break. I think last year we approved the calendar right after spring break time, because that's when people, I think, look at the next year to get spring break. So I don't agree with taking spring break away with people who already have things planned. I think that's really difficult. I think we're in a struggle that week with people who've already said, I'm taking that off. I mean, that's how I feel, and I agree with starting as early as you can, but I think we try to meet somewhere in the middle here. We have a couple options, and I agree, construction can work in the school, they can. It's obviously a lot less efficient to work in an occupied space. We do it all the time, or they do it. It's just, safety is a huge concern, that without having the kids around, I think it's much better. But I guess that was just me thinking, in the middle, 20 minutes with taking out spring break was May 8th. If we add spring break, we're at May 15th. We get out of that kind of crappy early May weather season. I know they have inside school stuff, but then we set up starting May 15th. It's 3 weeks of school. We have 8 months for parents and the school. We can figure out what we're gonna do with kids for spring break. And I agree with talking to a couple teachers. They really want it done in 1 year. And I think, I mean, not to inconvenience people for 2 different summers and moving and boxing and, delivering your kids in summer school, 2 different summers, we're trying to move people around in buildings, and I guess I look at an option 3 with adding the spring break, is how I feel.
Let me throw a curve into the whole spring break thing here. I'm just not a fan of spring break to begin with, but and I'll tell you why. We get wrapped up in a lot of people taking trips, but we have a very high population of poverty and kids in this district that are better off being in school and being fed. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, I don't have any problem not having spring break either. I don't, if we didn't have it, but if it wasn't scheduled, that'd be.
No,
if we would've said last year, we didn't sign up for spring break, I wouldn't think anything of it, but to know people, to know that they were gonna have it, for the people who are fortunate enough to have a spring break somewhere, I think it's,
and
it's tough
another,
to take.
again, another option is, we, start this thing at whatever time you give us, and then, we make a call in June or July, probably July, about the start of school next year. Maybe next year is the one you hit, but the only problem is that, trying to get people to finish their jobs in the fall is really, really tough, because, like right now, as in our construction meeting this morning, they're scrambling to get schools, finished up on that, because everyone's working.
Well, overtime, people don't work overtime. The way where I'm at right now, we can barely get people to work overtime. Maybe over here we could have better luck, but I can't get people they just don't wanna work Saturdays. They have families, they have things they wanna do, they don't wanna be in there. That's just what I see.
But the original question from the staff, I'm getting the feeling that they wanna get it done in 1 year,
Right.
and that's it.
I agree, I heard the same thing.
Thanks, Bruce. You'll have another chance. Yep, Katie?
So I spent the last couple of nights having a couple of community Facebook sites getting feedback, and what I found was that we don't need to rush this year. I think we can make it work in a 1-year time frame, but therefore still get the cost savings. And you could do it like in the fall, or if you even want to hold off until the spring. But that gives people, it gives us a lot more time to carefully consider and have plans for how this is gonna affect summer school and sports and activities, so we can have that planning done up front. It was like, Mr. Bertkey said that, you need to, as we had done with our referendum, we should be using the same type of process for this. It's just, it's not fair to people to switch schedule on them with just a few weeks. And I don't think we're being considerate of the people who supported passing this referendum. And I honestly don't know what the rush is. I don't get why we have to start this right now. I mean, nobody said during the referendum process, please do this as quickly as possible. They just, I think we need to be more considerate of our planning process and communication.
You'll get another shot at it. Are you okay? Are you good now?
Yep.
All right. I respect people being able to express their opinions, I really do. I also recognize that we got the bids to put together the referendum request, post, the referendum passed, post the calendar going out, so that happens, you're gonna have change. Those bids, though, are also going to change, so when you put those bids together, to put that referendum together, if we don't act on it, all those costs are gonna increase. Not one of them will go down. So for me, I think, unfortunately, change has to happen when we just keep that ball rolling. As grateful as I am that this referendum passed, and I really am, it's good things for the kids. My children won't benefit from it. I don't believe I'll have grandkids here either, but I still think it's valuable enough that I want to contribute to it as a taxpayer. But I'm also willing to give a little for 1 year so that we can see this happen in a workable time frame and at costs that we had projected. So I would be willing to do as many changes as we could feasibly do, and I do think kids are in school long enough. I do think 15 to 20 is already extending it up. But I would like to hear what the high school suggested, I really would, if they've got some other ideas, because I believe it's the combination of all those ideas.
And it was just playing with the different days and things like that.
Yeah.
Professional development days.
Yep, and I was hoping that we'd look at that too. We just had a call tonight, we had plans going down to see some people, and they called and said, nope, we're sorry, we're gonna cancel your reservations, we know it's short notice. Okay, you roll with it, that happens. Granted, it's not a full school year for me, but I think there's something to be said for being resilient in what we teach our kids. So how we handle this is really going to speak to our kids too. Sure.
Just a clarifying question here. Katie, were you walking down the path of not starting the construction for another summer?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, because
Totally, I would never recommend that at all. That would blow this whole budget and everything up.
Yeah.
We have to start this spring and summer. There's no question about that.
Well, I was responding to your remarks
Yeah.
about.
No, that's fine, and I'm just saying that, that would it would blow the budget right out by delaying it a year. I don't even know if we can do that with the money, the way we have it.
But we could start in the fall.
Why would we start in the fall? We'd start as soon as school's up.
Lengthening or delaying the start.
Oh, sure, you can do that, but we have to start construction this spring.
All right, Patty Jo, what can you share? What would you like?
I was wondering about building security, because with buildings being open to all the construction personnel, it kind of impacts our ability to be secure facilities, all of the schools that are going to be impacted by this. So the less kids that are in the schools, the more secure, with the climate that everything is in, that's a worry of mine, with the buildings being open and being less secure while the construction's going on, because you can't guarantee, who's coming in and out of the buildings. so the less days that they're actually in there while construction's going on is ideal to me. I do have kids in every building now, and I keep adding to them. But it's something that I, as a parent in this day and age, do put as a priority, is that I wanna make sure that they're in a secure facility, and it's not gonna be a secure facility as long as we allow them to be open for construction. Second, the spring break thing, I'm happy you hit on the poverty of the, because as I read all these comments about all these people going on their glorious vacations, I'm thinking that's not real for the majority of the Somerset School District. And the majority of the Somerset School District has a hard time getting daycare for that spring break, and the kids aren't getting fed. So that's something we also need to think of with the spring break. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. My kids are home either way, so those were my two big hits, were the poverty and the building security. So I'm fine with not the 30 minutes, but the 15, 20, and getting it done as soon as possible, so our buildings are secure when our kids are in it.
Good point.
Thank you, really
Yeah.
good points.
My first point I wrote was the spring break, because I had quite a few parents come and tell me that they don't go on spring breaks, and that it was gonna save them money by not having to do daycare. So, and I'm a spring breaker, so I hadn't even thought of that. So, but my family is spring break people, and my daughter said, well, you know, we maybe already have our tickets and we're already going, and so I talked to some teachers, and the teachers said, well, that week we would make packets for kids or whatever, and it wouldn't count against them for perfect attendance or things like that if you're already planning on going. And I said, oh, so my daughter said, we can live with that. Teaching when there's construction going on, I'm living with that in my own district right now, and I spent the whole afternoon with a group of teachers who aren't in their buildings because there's no water, it's under construction, Richardson Elementary in North St. Paul, and it's wrecking havoc, just wrecking havoc, because they were told they were gonna be in and they're not, and they've been living in a month worth of construction, and now they're living in construction, and the administrators went to the school board and said, could we delay it by 2 weeks? And the school board said no, and now parents are mad. Parents got a notice yesterday that school's not starting on time for that school. So it's so much better to make that decision that when we're gonna start, when we're gonna end, and if we're gonna extend 2 weeks in the fall, it's way better than sending kids back in dirty environments without water, no security. Having kids around construction is not ideal at all. Letting them out early, so I'm for adding the 15 to 20 minutes, because of safety, because of security, and I guess spring break can go either way with me, but the teachers were telling me that they would make accommodations, that would not be that hard to do. And like for high school and middle school, you just don't test that week. You maybe don't do some things that can't be made up. The only other thing, spring break, just the 15 to 20 minutes was the most that I would support. 30 minutes is too much for elementary. And I tell you what, I've taught fourth grade for many, many years, and we have always, many years we've had 15 minutes or 10 minutes added to our schedule because of snow days. And you aren't making kids sit in the desk for the last 15 minutes. You are planning your activities, you change your lesson up if you know you have that extra 15 minutes. So it is instructional time. In fact, I kind of thought, we had 13 minutes 2 years ago, and it was a gift, because I had an extra 13 minutes to get some things done. And the kids were not just sitting in their desks exhausted. We were doing things. And if I taught first or kindergarten, I maybe would have even had a calming time or a nap time sometime during the day. Bring in extra snacks. Our staff is really competent, and they will use that 15 minutes wisely.
Thanks, Catherine. Lori, what would you like to add?
I want to be responsible to the taxpayers in the district, and I want to be sensitive to families in the district. I don't like being in this position where we're making decisions that appear to be at the last minute. I'm not in construction, so I don't know what it's like, but I hear people talk right now about what construction costs are and what materials, how high the cost of materials are right now. And I do wonder if we waited till the following summer, if things might actually be cheaper. I don't know, I can't tell the future. So I guess and I agree with what Catherine said about our excellent staff, and they will use the time well, and it will be good quality instructional time. But I guess my preference is that we leave this year's calendar alone, start in June, and look at this extra time in the fall, because then we can plan it. The administrators in buildings can plan it into their schedules for next year. I was at all 4 buildings for open house Tuesday night, and I saw a long line of kids coming out of the high school office trying to get their schedules changed. And then you add another 20 minutes. I don't know. I would think that it would be advantageous for the staff to have that extra time to figure things out well and plan it well for the fall.
All right, Bruce, did you have any more questions or want to express anything more?
I'd be interested if you.
Well, that,
have-
you were just talking about that percentage, every 2 weeks, and we have a sector meeting, and every meeting, we go through the construction, the costs, like a bunch of different products, if they're going up or down, or wherever they're going, and we're not going down. I mean, and there's a couple things, obviously, you know, they fluctuate, but, I mean, even just building houses and stuff, I mean, things are, everything's shooting up, and labor's shooting up, and there's, waiting is not, we wouldn't wanna push for an additional year, a later year, a second year. I mean, we don't wanna wait till 21? I mean, that's just, I don't think that's even an option, or to me, it's not. And 8 months from now is May 15th, which is when, and I'm just picking this May 15th, but anyway, May is 8 months from now, which gives us and the staff, you know, to find out what to do in the spring, you know, for that 3 months where people aren't here for daycare or for, you know, after school care. So I think that gives a lot of time for us in the school district to have a plan for what to do with the extra 3 weeks of having kids here while construction is going on. But again, I think I already said, I've heard to do this in 1 year, and I think affect as few school years as possible, and that's ending early this year and starting on time next year. And, you know, Marka Johnson is the person who brought this up, and they do this all the time, and that's how they want to do it, and I support their opinion on this topic. So I don't have, I guess.
And I think we need to think about how the parents of the students will react to this. We don't have any plans put in place in advance to deal with summer school, daycare, busing. We don't have anything, any details yet. And we're gonna say, in 2 weeks, we're going to change your schedule. And we don't know what's gonna happen in the summer, but we'll get back to you.
Well,
I mean,
we
no.
do have 8 months, people can, I mean,
Can
we
I
should be able to
finish?
plan 8 months ahead. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, and it's not easy at all. I mean, it's tough to make these decisions on the fly, but some decisions too. I think we can have a pretty solid plan by May to come up with.
Well, they need to plan before May for what their family's going to be like and what daycare expenses are gonna be like and everything else. I'm just saying, I don't like flying by the seat of our pants, and that's what we look like we're doing. Also, just starting in June or whatever, you are still gonna get the cost savings. Maybe not the $500,000 that's being thrown out there, but, and then you'll be respecting, the parents in the district and their families' needs. I mean, I feel that very strongly. And further, my last point is about communication. No matter what, we need to get word out, about, I don't know if we, because we're supposed to be voting on September 9th. So we've gotta decide maybe in a couple of other options and get some word out and get feedback. That would just be my suggestion.
I think that's a given. I don't wanna cut you off.
No, I'm done.
I think there's gonna, same thing as what I said before. There's going to be someone negatively impacted no matter which way we go. Flexibility is always gonna be to our benefit, to everyone's benefit. If you don't sweat it and don't get all worked up about it, I think you can make it work. Anything you choose to make work. I agree with Bruce in that 6 to 8 months gives us time. And people have to do that all the time in their activities. So my hope would be we make as many changes to the schedule as we can all at once to give them that larger window. So I really appreciated how you said that with regards to the security of the kids. I had not considered that. And the safety issue that you talked about, Bruce, I think is significant. It's definitely easier to secure an environment when there are not children present. That's my take on it.
I am thinking now about athletics, because that's something that everyone kind of brought up was athletics and athletics and athletics. And my kids are in track and cross country, so I got both sides there. Typically, spring athletics are done by the second week of May.
Well, it wouldn't affect the athletic schedule.
No, I'm just saying in general, because that's what a lot of the parents were, when,
Well, like track is like the
yeah.
third
First
week,
week
the
in
Third week in May.
22nd or so of May.
Track regionals the third week of May, sections
Okay.
later in the
Yeah.
week, and then state is usually
First
that
week
first
of
week in
September.
June.
First week in June,
State
yeah.
baseball is usually the second week in June, it's
Okay.
fairly late,
Okay,
so your spring sports go quite a bit late.
Yeah.
As is.
and they start in the beginning of August.
Yeah, August first is when
First
our
week of
one
August is
starts,
when
yeah.
they start. So either way, athletics are gonna be affected by this, whether we extend the school year.
Right.
And if we choose to extend the construction and have a later start date, parents will still have to pay that daycare cost, cause they'll have 2 or 3 weeks of daycare cost to make either way,
More time to plan.
but they'll have a year to plan it. But either way, they'll have it.
Yep.
Well,
So,
the way I look at the whole daycare piece is that if we know we're ending on a specific date, instead of running 2-3 week sessions of summer school, we run 3. When you extend into the fall, we don't know how long yet. And so it's hard for us to plan something structured then, because, you know, depending on the weather, I mean, that's another thing, you know, pray for a drought, you know, so we,
Like this
you know,
year.
we can get things done. But there's a lot of, you know, give and take on this that we're not gonna have control over. And, you know, just let me throw this out here, if this is something that's gonna be a 4-3 or something that's up in the air, I would say, don't change a thing. Let's just go at it the way it is. You're not gonna break my heart, it's a lot less work for us. Again, the idea behind this whole thing was, here's some ideas, you know, you wanna save some money, possibly, you know, what have you. But, you know, we'll live if we don't change the schedule.
what are the type of things we're looking at that could be completed with that extra savings? That's the one.
Well,
thing
we
that's-
have no idea, you know, and I don't even wanna
Hypothetically,
count on
yeah.
that, because who knows what's gonna happen when the bids come in.
Yeah.
You know, we may be sitting here thinking, you know what, steel just went up because something over in China or concrete or what have you, and now we're sitting there thinking, okay, we gotta cut back on something else. You know, right now, everything looks rosy and great,
Right,
but again, the telltale is when, you know, the bids come in.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, we can live and we'll do fine with the calendar the way it is. It's, again, there's some opportunity, and that's the only reason we brought it forward, for you to kinda put the word out there, see what you think, and you know what? If there's not enough time, there's not enough time. I'm fine if we just go at it with the same, you know, with the.
Over
with the-
2 years.
with the, if it
Be
takes 2
2
years
years
or
of
not.
disruption.
You know, in our construction meeting this morning, I said, here's the options, here's what we're looking at. And the plan would be, you know, from my standpoint is, you know, if we're gonna leave the schedule the way it is, now we start working on how we're gonna section off the school and how we can get them in there to do, you know, move people into other areas so they can get some work done. They're already laying things out as far as what can they get done in occupied spaces and over the summer. And, you know, obviously it'll go into the fall, but there'll be pieces outside and things like that, you know, they can deal with. So they're working on the schedule right now. So again, don't think we have to do 15, 20 minutes. It'd be nice if they had it, they'd love it, but we'll survive and we can maintain the schedule and possibly affect next year in the fall. And then we can make that decision in July.
I just didn't know if there was something that we had kind of on the back burner with the referendum, because I wasn't here during that. If there was something that we took off to accommodate what the referendum was for, that we're kind of looking at, you know, whether it was upgrades to something
No.
or anything like that, because that's
No.
kind of what people were talking
Yeah,
about.
no, this, you know, this 28.6 was address the needs of the district, you know, the mechanical, you know, facelifts, the updating, there was no, you know,
Extra.
no football field renovation or things like that.
Yep.
Unless we save $1.5 million. No, I'm just kidding. Shouldn't say that on the air.
I don't have anything to add.
All right.
I would like to be responsible to the taxpayers by doing it in one summer, and I would like to be considerate of the families by not changing the calendar this year and looking at changing the calendar for next year.
So we've all had some comments on, we've gotten some good feedback, and you've got let's see, the 9th, 2 weeks, not quite, 10 days for confirmation. I'm sorry, we won't be getting one tonight, but I see in the notes you said for a decision on the 9th, so that's what we'll.
Yeah, well, if we had some direction, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what more information you would want. You know, we had a list of areas that we think are concerns, that, you know, we'd have to address that if, you know, depending on what the 15, 20, you know, 30-minute piece, you know, if we had a direction, you know, we can turn the principals loose on, you know, getting things rolling, so, you know, they don't have to wait till the 9th, but, you know, just my 2 cents from what I'm sensing is you wanna leave, I'm feeling it, you wanna
I
leave the
would vote
schedule alone.
to leave it.
Well,
You know, and if that's it, believe me,
Well, I
it'll take a lot of stress off of the buildings and the principals trying to, you know, get this all figured out and what have you. It's just that, you know, we're just gonna be working around people.
Can I ask one clarifying thing? So, say we said full-blown construction will start once the kids are gone, and it will probably extend in the fall or something. That doesn't mean that the buildings are not, they're gonna be in there in April and May.
Mhm.
And I tell you what, I'm teaching in buildings, and there's hammering, there's roofing, there's construction workers everywhere. The playground's full of them, everything's full of them. So that, it doesn't mean that, oh, they start in June when the kids are gone.
No, we'll get them, you know, they'll be in
I
there
have
over
teachers that
spring
had to
break.
move rooms.
We're already lining up,
For 3
over
weeks.
Christmas to do the elementary secured entryways. And, you know, they wanna get in as soon as they can. And it's important that, you know, the bidding happens in January, so good bidding climate. And, you know, a lot of people are hungry. But we'll
And-
work,
So do you want your kids in there during this construction? I mean, do you want teachers in there? Do you want kids in there for those 3 weeks? Or whatever, or do you want to end school 3 weeks early and then have them be gone and have summer school be going somewhere else? We've looked at other places to have summer school. Like the elementary will still have regular summer school because they're not gonna be affected so much, but maybe the high school kids might be somewhere else, or the middle school kids might be somewhere else, rather than being at risk. I tell you, it's crazy. Drive through North St. Paul right now. There's 2 schools that I'm dealing with all the time that are constantly, the roofing or the whacking, and it's constant. And there's literally 100 construction people on site at one of the elementary schools right now, literally.
you know, and we'll make do, you know, I mean, that's what.
Let's see where we're at, though.
That's what we do.
Bruce, if I understood you earlier, your position still stays the same, you would support option 3?
but keeping spring break, you
Yeah,
wanted to keep
I mean, I
spring
think
break.
starting around the 15th, I like that
May
date,
15th.
starting May 15th. It's not the beginning of May, it's May 15th, but in May, a lot of sports and stuff are done. It's, you know, not far ahead of Memorial Day.
Katie, if I understood you right, you wanted to keep the calendar as it is, option 4.
Well, originally I wanted to go with with starting in the fall in the 1-year deal, but, I'm fine too, just going with the original.
Option 4. Option 4, keeping it.
And I would support option 3, and I would say giving in on some of the spring break, if there's families that have done it, I appreciate that the teachers were willing to say, you know, they can do it via the web, but they can also, they won't have any activities, so the kids would not feel like they're missing it, but they're also able to get the packets ahead of time. I think that's a tremendous, you know, support by those teachers to say, yes, we do want to get this done. So mine would be for 3. Do you have a strong feeling one way or the other?
2 or 3 with some flexibility that if we gave, you know, did a little later this year and started a little later next year too, if that were an option. Like we go until Memorial Day and then go a week later next year, kind of a little flexibility there, but yeah.
I'm option 3.
Okay, and Lori?
I think I want an option that's not listed. I would
Kind of
like
like Katie.
to leave the calendar for this year alone, get the construction done in one summer, and make the adjustments to the calendar for next year so that people have time to plan.
So
Is that an option on the
No, but
list?
I'll
Options
create
option
one,
5
as soon as you go
That
around,
was
I've
pretty
got
much
something in
my
my
initial
head that
proposal.
might be palatable to all of you.
All right, so from what I've seen and what you just heard, we have a tendency to go towards 3, but I like what you suggested, and I would say that too. Let's give them a week for sure at the end.
Let me throw this out, how about, if we look at option 3, but we preserve spring break, and with the caveat that we look at hard adjusting the fall. So that would get us somewhere around the 18th, and, you know, so we at least get them in there a few weeks early, but then, you know what, the fall may very well be adjusted. And I'll work with construction, you know, with the, you know, as soon as we have a direction, you know, they wanna know so they can, the construction management, so they can kinda know how they're gonna lay things out in that, but, you know, the earlier we can start working on this, you know, the wrench in this whole thing is if we have snow days too.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I think I'll work with the administration also, talk a little bit more about, you know, we're still looking at maybe that day before Thanksgiving. You know, I really don't wanna go after professional development days because these teachers, we got a lot of initiative and they need time. They just do. You know, when people say, hey, let's whack some of these up, they're very valuable.
What if we went with half days on some of those? Half student contact days?
You know, we can,
Elementary teachers hate those, or elementary students, that's really hard on parents,
Yeah.
half days.
but, you know, is there kind of a consensus around preserving spring break? And
That sounds like Hudson, just throwing it out there. Hudson did that same thing. They were about the 18th or so, and then they came back like September.
with the
12.
caveat that the fall may be adjusted. And we can do that probably in July, you know, looking at.
So that
what
would be
we're
easier on families, getting out May 18th, it's just a 2-week window, it's not a month where you
So
have
it's
to.
adding 15 or 20 minutes to the day, from what I'm reading here, to enable
That's
that.
not on here.
Well, that option, we'll have to figure that out, but you wanna keep it around,
What's not on?
you don't want any more than 20 minutes.
Right.
We're making a new one.
Yeah,
Which one?
You-
the one that we're talking about, it's not on here.
You don't want any more than 20 minutes, I'm
Right.
hearing.
Correct,
Yes,
that's
right,
the
yeah,
max.
no
Right.
more.
If you did the 18th and 15th,
I mean, we are not supposed to be voting
We're
tonight,
not.
so I
We're not,
think
I'm
we
just
should
trying
be
to-
having a couple of options
just-
to throw
Yeah.
out.
Trying to figure out
Yeah.
what,
And
what
so
the
I
next
will,
move is.
you know, because what Lori had said was what I originally went with, but it didn't sound like I had any support, so if that, you could
So is
retain
there,
that
is
one.
there 2 options then? Is there do nothing and affect the fall? Or
Some
a
of
modified
those.
option 3 with preserving spring break? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, we'll have to run the numbers on them and see. And I can get that out to you within probably the first part of next week. Does that work?
I'm indifferent to spring break,
I'm
so.
indifferent to
I'm
spring break.
indifferent to spring break.
Well, I'm just, That's what I'm kinda hearing though, is, but if I'm wrong, tell me,
Well,
we'll
we
create
can-
whatever
You also
scenario you
said
want.
they were looking at coming in during spring break to
Yeah,
do
that's-
construction, so if they are planning
Oh,
on
they would,
working it,
believe me,
then give it off.
they're,
I mean, obviously, like they said too, they'd rather have it tacked on at the end.
they would, but they'll be, if there's a week, they're gonna be in there.
Yeah.
All right, so I hope that gives you the direction.
Okay, so, two
Maybe
scenarios.
that can be asked around to the teachers a little more, to see what
Two-
they
two
feel about spring
scenarios.
break.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Before we-
Thank you very much, and thank you, those of you who took the time to come in and share
Very
your
much,
thoughts
thank
with
you.
us.
It helps a lot.
All right, so we're not gonna make you stay for the rest. If you want to leave, you are welcome to leave, but if you'd love to listen to us, you sure can stay too.
I think they should have to sing.
Thank you.
When you were saying not start construction, that's what it sounded like.
Well, that's what I misspoke at
Yeah,
the very
and-
beginning.
And I
You
was
did.
like, and I was like,
Oh.
why wouldn't we start
Right.
construction? I totally got confused by what you're saying, but then I figured it out.
Yeah.
Feedback.
So this
We
is
just
just
should not
a while.
mess with the
Just
schedule
this tonight.
this year.
All right.
With 2 weeks' notice, unless you want everybody hating on you.
I don't think everybody would be hating.
Oh,
on
yes,
us.
they
There's
would.
gonna be some that aren't happy.
Oh,
and they are
maybe.
the ones that we would hear from, those that are willing to be
Oh.
flexible here. You're not gonna hear from the ones that are saying that's okay.
All of the people I.
No,
hear
I
from
did
the ones
hear
that
from
are
them.
happy.
I did hear from them, that they were not happy with the late notice.
That's what my sister says, but she also has construction going on right now, and she's just like, it's hard. Everything is hard. And if I have to work, cause I do, I'm in St. Paul, so I do construction all over. I can't focus on everything, and I'm old.
I never would have thought of the security.
Yeah, that's also my, just don't like that.
Trying to teach with construction, I can't imagine the distraction.
Last week I did trainings with teachers all week. The roar.
So I think we took a little bit of a break.
I was just gonna ask her.
So not to have it look like we are, but we kinda are,
Yeah.
cause we lost, yeah,
Want me to?
pause it for a few moments, I guess.
I like to use the bathroom and get some water.
Alright, so there's a motion for that.